All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Dolphins Brawl. I am your host, Louis Sung, and with me as always is my co-host, Chad Ronenbaum, and joining us today is Dante, who is running the Dolphins Brawl social media pages. So, Dante, how are you today?
Doing great. Happy to make my Dolphins Brawl debut.
All right, sounds awesome, and boy, do we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So ever since the last show that we did, which got delayed by a little bit just because everything that's been going on. So all of you out there, stay safe. We're here for you now. We're going to give you some interesting sports content to talk about here while you guys are hunkering down. Everything will hopefully clear over soon. So now, as a matter of fact, actually, before we discuss your new headwear for today, Chad, like you're right there on the front lines pretty much.
No, I'm not really. I work remotely, but I'm seeing what's going on in the front line. So
close, you're like the back lines then almost, but still it's close enough.
Yeah, I am. So I know like the services like Facebook and YouTube and stuff are not wanting us to talk about it in detail. They're trying to keep it through professional channels. So
right.
I'm kind of staying away from it. But yeah, I encourage everybody to follow what the government's putting out and stay indoors and follow what they're suggesting if you can. Probably that simple.
All right. So hopefully you guys are safe. So let's go ahead and go over everything that we've been going on. And by the way, what's with the hat?
Oh, I actually wore the Dolphins today. You wouldn't know this, Dante, probably, but I usually wear a different hat, and Louis always is asking me about it. So I thought since we're actually starting the season, as far as I'm concerned with free agency, I better wear a Dolphins hat for a change. So I did that. I thought about wearing a Tampa Bay 12 hat, but I refrained.
Okay. I'd like to not talk about him if we can help it, honestly.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Goodwin. Who are you talking about?
Oh. Okay. Okay, you got me.
That was good.
He just made money, too. He's going to sell that number, I'm assuming. Tom Brady's getting 12, so I imagine he'll sell his jersey number to Tom.
Or Tom will be like, boy, give me your number before I kick you.
Or you're getting cut.
You're getting cut. It's like, do you know what I can do to you, my friend? I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Okay. So, all right. So, like I said, plenty of stuff to talk about. Free agency has, technically, by the time of this recording, not officially opened up. This is the legal tampering period.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing how it just became free agency now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like there's no legal tampering, nothing. It's just people are like literally just on the verge of signing on the dotted line. There's not even a question anymore. And
I don't know why they bother. Why do they bother? I really don't understand.
The actual legal tampering period is the combine. That's the actual.
Really?
That's when this is going on.
Very true.
And like I said, like the Dolphins went on a rampage with spending money, which was good because again they almost had $100 million worth. They got to spend it somewhere, and I was happy with a lot of the things they did. I was on some of the other things they did, and we will get into all of that right now. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. So the Miami Dolphins went ahead and they signed a whole bunch of different players. So they have the likes of Byron Jones, who that's my favorite signing right there, right off the bat. You could even argue that he might be better than Xavier Howard. Ultimately depends on what you value more, interceptions or just lockdown, shutdown kind of coverage. Then they went ahead and they got Kyle Van Noy, former New England Patriot. Brian Flores knows him well. He's one of the top linebackers that you can think of in this league right now. They went ahead and got Shaq Lawson, a pass rusher who can set the edge. And they also went now and they signed Jordan Howard today, a running back who, when healthy, is one of the, I wouldn't say he's one of the best, but he's pretty darn good. And so when you pair him up with a rookie that presumably we're going to be getting our hands on, and after I made my comment of saying that I want DeAndre Swift, I got a whole bunch of comments saying, oh, you meant J.K. Dobbins. And they said, no, you meant Jonathan Taylor. No, you meant this guy. I'm like, okay, so pretty much you could just draft anybody and you'd be happy. But anyway, so... And the list goes on and on. There were a couple of special teams guys. There's one named Clayton, whose last name I still can't pronounce. And say again? Fagellum, is that how you say? Okay.
Clayton Fagellum.
Clayton Fagellum.
I think that's right. Yeah.
We'll know for sure soon enough. So Clayton Fagellum, who is a safety special teams ace, who I said this on 5 Reasons just the other night. I'm going to miss my boy Walt, but that's how the ball bounces. So... Oh, good luck to Walt Aikens wherever he lands. He's a good friend. I say he's a good friend of mine, so he'll lock on somewhere. And they also got a linebacker who I'm also a little iffy on the name. Like, what is it again?
Go ahead.
Gruger Hill, I think.
I think that's pretty close. Gruger Hill. Gruger Hill. I think it's kind of a weird.
Why don't you look it up, Brent? Why don't you look it up real quick? So we can be like.
He's an interesting guy, believe it or not. But like he actually kicked off at times for the Eagles, believe it or not.
Well, he's a backup kicker too.
He can. Not a field goal kicker. Play like where you kick off. Not a place kicker.
So he just kicks it as hard as he can, and it just goes flying, is what he.
I didn't know a lot about him, so I was researching him a little bit. He put one in the end zone, so I would say he could serve as a backup guy that could kick off.
Okay, so if anything happens to Jason Sanders, we're set. We don't need to sign someone else.
Yeah.
Send the linebacker out there.
Well, I highly doubt he can make field goals accurately, but he can kick off.
That's what training camp is for. We just practice. Okay, so actually that's something else we probably need to discuss a little bit too, is the new CBA. But we're going to get into the free agency part of it first, because that's where the big money is right now, and emphasis on big money. So like I said, Dolphins been signing a whole bunch of players. And Dante, since you're the new kid on the block for us right now, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, what was the biggest signing for you so far and why? And do you envision the Dolphins doing anything else?
For me, it's got to be Byron Jones. I mean, that was the big signing for probably anybody. The thought of him and Xavier Howard playing cornerback together is just, it's making me happy. It's great. I mean, what a great pick-me-up among all of this crazy stuff going on in the world. But Jones is just a great player. You can go and watch him lock up Michael Thomas, lock up Terry McLaurin. He locked up Preston Williams last year when we played Dallas. He's a tremendous player. I don't care how much they're paying him, man. You get a lockdown corner, I think it's worth it.
And Chad, now it's on you.
In terms of picking a player, obviously I think Byron Jones is a very big player in impact, but I think what you're seeing now with Greer calling the shots now, in contrast to Tannenbaum, this is very much like I would see something Jeff Ireland do, where you're going back to youth. These are second contract guys, and I'm not a big fan of bringing in free agents that are into their 30s, and Tannenbaum did that for a few times because they just, I don't know, once you get into your 30s at a lot of positions in the NFL, you have a tough time staying healthy. I think you have a tough time keeping your body in that peak condition. It depends on the position. I'm not talking about a quarterback, but if you're a running back or a receiver, a linebacker, and you're into your 30s, I think it's a mistake. And to use this as an example, I think one of the worst signings of free agency was the Chicago Bears, because we're all familiar with Robert Quinn, and they just gave Robert Quinn a 5-year, $70 million deal. And I think when he came to Miami, he was past his prime. When he was doing elite stuff in the NFL, you're probably almost back to 2015. So there's a guy that's 30 who has a contract that's going through 35, which I highly doubt he'll complete. I'm guessing he will be dead cap space for the Bears in 2 years from the Robert Quinn I've watched the last few years. And that's something that Mike Tannenbaum would do, is bring in a guy that was older like that, or whether you want to call it Tannenbaum or Gase, but that's when we're bringing in older players that were into their 30s, and they just didn't work out, like Danny Amendola and Frank Gore. We're suddenly bringing in these old players, and they just don't hold up. And so as you run through our free agents right now, Byron Jones is 27, Kyle Van Noy is 29, Jordan Howard's 25, Emmanuel Ogbah is 26, Shaq Lawson 25.
I actually forgot Ogbah and Eric Flowers.
But do you see the trend here? These are all guys in their mid-20s, and these are players that physically will probably be able to be on this team in 2 or 3 years from now if they're playing well. So that's what I liked about this, because I feel like this, as you run through these guys, majority of all these guys aren't going to be starters right away, and they're young, and so they can still develop them a little bit. And this is not a move to try to immediately fit in 1 or 2 pieces to win the Super Bowl. This is building a team from the ground up, and so they're starting with the younger free agents right now that still have a few years in front of them of elite play.
And I can understand the mentality, and that's what people have been wanting the Dolphins to do for a very long time, is to not go and find older free agents at more of a bargain basement price, and rather just go and sign those players coming off their first contracts and turn them into their stars. Yeah. Unfortunately, my little off-season plan only sort of came to fruition. I was pounding the table for Byron Jones from day one. Kyle Van Noy made it to my second off-season plan, so they got him. Unfortunately, they didn't get their hands on Unique Ngakoue, because I think that's how you say it anyway, but because the Jaguars tagged him, the Redskins tagged Brandon Scherf, and the Patriots tagged Joe Thuney. So basically everybody who would have been a premier guard type-ish player or a pass rusher, they don't get to leave. They're probably looking to see if they can trade them, because these players have pretty much made it clear, or at the very least Scherf and Ngakoue have. They've made it clear that they don't want to be where they currently are, and they don't want to sign that tag. And
I think there's some players that are going to play out yet. Obviously, Cam Newton's going to play out for the Panthers now. He won't be their one way or the other, he's leaving the Panthers now. But I think Ngakoue from the Jags, he's already stated publicly he doesn't want to be there. And so I think this is a tag and trade what they're attempting to do right now. And I think Trent Williams for the Redskins has to play out yet as well. And so those are, I don't know that any of those players are going to be that impactful for the Dolphins. I kind of want to stay away from Trent Williams personally because he's 32. But
Ngakoue's in his prime though.
Yeah, no, I just they're going to be wanting a hefty price for him. So that'll probably drag on into training camp, to be honest, unless a team steps forward right away with a lot of picks. But you're going to have a contract to get agreed upon with the new team, and a draft and the trade agreed upon with the Jaguars. And when you mix those two things together, those are hard deals to pull off. So I think that one will take a while for it to play out.
And Dante, just so you're aware, when we do these kind of shows, we can just kind of interject on each other whenever we like, because we try to keep the free-ish atmosphere. It's not like you have to wait for me to say, you talk. If you want to talk. That's how we do it.
Okay.
Just feel free to say it. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So go for it.
All right. Got it. Well, I mean, just branching off of that, I guess, I think that we should go after Ngakoue. I mean, you would be hard pressed to find a better pass rusher in his prime available on the open market right now than him. He's the total package. And I think Miami would be at least foolish to not pick up the phone and call Jacksonville and at least see where they're at right now. Even if it's, pick 26, I think they should consider it. You're not going to draft someone better than him right now.
I think that'd probably get it done, to be honest. Yeah. I don't know that you need to, but if you want him secured right away, yeah. But I just think I think as time wears on, the Jaguars' leverage is going to decrease. And so the real question is, where does Ngakoue want to go? And so if he's interested in coming to Miami and you can have a nice contract worked out with him, he can be very difficult to the Jaguars, because I'm assuming he hasn't signed his tender yet. And so as things go on, they're going to be willing to take less. But absolutely, if you can get your hands on him. But if I'm Miami, I probably keep a close eye on him, but I probably go through the draft first and see how that plays out. And if you don't get the defensive line you want in that draft, that's when I think the good news for Miami is they have the picks in 2021. And so if you want to use a first, you can swing back around post-draft, ship that first over to the Jaguars and get him this year if you really want him yet. So Miami's in a good spot to just kind of wait. But
if I'm Miami, I'm not touching those 2021 picks with a 10-foot pole, especially considering now, because we still have 2 first-rounders. Don't remember this. The Dolphins won, and Houston, who just made a really, 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 really dumb move in sending off DeAndre Hopkins packing for peanuts. And meanwhile, who was it that got Stephon Diggs went to the Bills for a surplus of draft picks. Somehow the Bills paid more for Stephon Diggs than who was it? The Cardinals paid for DeAndre Hopkins.
I can't believe Bill O'Brien still has a job. I mean, what is he thinking? What are we doing? I don't understand.
I understand. This is a chain reaction of events right now he put in place last year. So Bill O'Brien's running the team into the ground in a hurry, and so
and that's why I'm not touching that pick.
I don't know what's going on with the ownership of the Texans, but allowing him to be the GM right now is an enormous mistake, because what he's done is Okay, so you've traded 2 number 1 picks to Miami for Laremy Tunsil, right? Laremy Tunsil is now into the end of his contract, and Laremy Tunsil wants to probably be in the
One
free
of the
agent
highest
market.
paid guys.
Maybe
He'll be
the highest.
He'll be the highest paid left tackle.
That's what he wants, right?
Yeah.
And if you're the Texans, think of the leverage position you've put yourself in, because now you've given up your assets, your 2 number 1 picks. Laremy Tunsil knows that, and so he can say, I want the moon for the contract, and if you don't pay me, fine, cut me or whatever. And you're stuck if you're the Texans, because you can't trade 2 number 1 picks just to rent a guy for a year. So they've got to come up with the money to get Laremy Tunsil signed, and they have other players on that team. Deshaun Watson's going to be coming up for a contract at some point, and so they simply don't have the cap space to manage all these guys. And so what Bill O'Brien's doing is he's realizing, I'm going to lose DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not going to be able to afford him, so I'm going to trade him. But for what they got for him, it was insane. I mean,
Trash.
You're talking a guy in his prime, a young guy yet he's got to be close to top 5.
You could argue he's the best, period.
Oh, I think he's the best receiver in the league.
That's a fair argument. It's absolutely a fair argument. And to give him up for peanuts right now, when you put all this into your team to try to win a Super Bowl, to give up your number 1 receiver, I've heard some Texans fans trying to spin this, but we've still got some really good skill sets in Kenny Stills, and I'm thinking, no offense to Kenny Stills,
DeAndre Hopkins.
He's not DeAndre Hopkins.
Not even close.
And you replaced that spot with Randall Cobb. Randall
Cobb
Cobb and Kenny Stills
overpaid
combined
Randall Cobb.
don't include DeAndre Hopkins.
Just look at what the Dolphins have done with Byron Jones, for example. It becomes much easier to defend the Texans now, because you can just put Xavier Howard and Byron Jones probably a man-to-man on any receivers on those teams and cheat your safeties a lot in that defense. When you have Hopkins on your team, you've almost always got to be prepared to double team him throughout the game, or he will change the game immediately. They'll throw one up to him, he'll score a touchdown on you. So, yeah, I have to say that was the worst free agent move of the day, was that trade. And then when you see Stephon Diggs, I thought Buffalo overpaid for him without a doubt. And no offense to him, he's a solid wide receiver, but they gave up a lot to get him. So I wasn't following both those trades really, but I'm just glad we're the ones that aren't doing those right now, or we're not overpaying older vets. So
isn't that nice? So that's actually where this leads into. So given what these players are and who they could be, let's say because Brady's gone now, we don't have to worry about that anymore. So let's say Brady's gone, so he's not in New England anymore. So let's say that we want Joe Thuney. They franchise tagged him. We want Joe Thuney. What would you be willing to give up for potentially the best left guard?
I wouldn't. Not for what
I wouldn't either. Yeah.
Not for nothing. Okay. So let's change it. Let's say it's Ngakoue. What would you be willing to give up for him? What's the top offer you're giving up for that pass rusher?
I would send 26 right now. That would be I cover the draft. I can tell you this edge class is not great outside of the top.
You don't like Clavon Chason?
He's one of the top, 2-3 guys. I don't know if we're not taking him at 5. I don't know if he's there at 18. That might require another trade up. I like Chason a lot. I just don't know if he's there. And Ngakoue is definitely better than he is right now. Chason might be the better player down the road, but I would send 26 to Jacksonville right now. I think it's a no-brainer.
But is that all you're doing? And if they ask for more, you say no?
If they ask for more, no. I think a first-round pick is fine. They have no leverage. I don't think they should be asking for more. Right. If I'm offering a first-round pick, I think they should be gratitude. They have no leverage. I would probably come in with Miami and I'd offer 39 first. And then if they said, well, if it really got down to the nitty gritty and they're like, well, we want 26, I'd give it to them. But, I think you start at 39 and you work your way up.
Value-wise, absolutely, I would agree. I really think if you offered 26, the Jaguars would take it today. I think because they know what I just said. Their leverage is going to decrease as the season goes on, and they would really like to get that number 1 pick with the draft a month away. The only caveat I'll spin in there right now is why I don't think you're going to see that happen is we really don't know what Miami's intending for quarterback right now. And so let's say Miami's really interested in going after Burrow, or they feel like they're going to move up to 3 with the Lions to secure Tua or something like that. they may need those picks for that move. And so that's why I think they're probably going to maybe be a little conservative until after the draft with those picks for trading for players.
I'll just say this about that specifically. I've been saying for weeks now that I don't think the Dolphins need to trade up. And
I
even
agree,
more so,
100%. But
and with the Lions
agree.
recently going after Chase Daniels, basically to back up Matt Stafford, it just feels like even more obvious that the idea is not to draft Tua.
Even with the other free agent moves today, like Tom Brady, that takes Tampa out of the equation. Phillip Rivers to Indy, they're done. Carolina signed Bridgewater to a $60 million contract.
And that's what I was saying, is that the free agent quarterbacks basically change the entire draft process. Because if you are a team who just signed a free agent quarterback to a massive contract, presumably to be your starter, why are you drafting Tua in the first place? There's no point.
Here's what I'd say, guys. If you want to talk about the quarterback topic, you're absolutely right, Lewis. The Lions paying Chase Daniels a 3-year deal right now. They're not going to draft a quarterback. That basically showed that clearly. They're not.
So there's
not
no one to worry about. There's no one to worry about.
That's not true. But the guys in front of us are not going to take a quarterback. So the Redskins, I don't care what anybody tries, whatever swampland they're trying to sell you, they're not taking a quarterback with the second overall pick with Chase on the board and with just drafting the number 1 last year. The Lions clearly are not doing it, and obviously the Giants aren't doing it. And so there is going to be none of those teams. However, the Chargers now are reeling, I have to imagine, because I'm pretty confident the Chargers went really hard after Tom Brady, and they lost out to him. And I'm sure there was that sinking feeling in the Chargers ownership's stomach because I don't know if you guys follow Pro Football Talk, but
not going to lie, I forgot the Chargers. I thought Brady was going to go.
Well, I mean, 30 minutes after Tom Brady officially is being announced as going to Tampa, they announced that the Tampa Bay ticket sales spiked dramatically.
Yeah.
So this is what it was all about for the Chargers. Is the Chargers? We've had this discussion months back, Lewis, but they do not have market share in LA right now, and they need to make a splash to get market share. So them losing on Tom Brady was a gut punch because plus everybody's really gone. There is no big time quarterback available right now unless you're going to trade for Cam Newton, which may be what they do. But so the Chargers right now are desperate for quarterback. They don't really have a starting quarterback on their team. And the other team I'd say be careful and not overlook is the Raiders, because the Raiders didn't do anything, and they've got Carr under contract.
Mariota.
Yeah,
Mariota and Carr.
What was the contract for Mariota? I didn't see.
It was short term. I don't think it was a big contract, but I mean, Carr and Mariota kind of seems like they're hedging their bets, almost like what Tennessee did last year. With
Ryan Tannehill.
You know, yeah.
I would say it's unlikely with Mariota, but the Raiders have 2 first-round picks. That's why I'm just a little nervous. But with that being said, even so, the Raiders have 2/3, but they have no second. And so for the Raiders to jump up would be pretty expensive from where they're at if they're going to go to the Lions or Giants and move up.
They would need a player. They would need to give up somebody.
But beyond that, it's filled out. But the Raiders and Chargers are both teams I still think if you want Tua, if that's what the Dolphins plan on doing, I would still just ship a second to the Lions and be done with it.
A second, yes. I'll give up a second. I just don't want to give up that first round.
You don't want a team like the Raiders or something to jump up, giving up their 2 third-round picks or something somehow, or something weird happening like that, and then they grab Tua. But that's the only team I see that has the capital to be a little loose is the Raiders, since they have a second number 1 pick. But you're right, with signing Mariota, that's probably not their priority right now. And they're probably worried about a lot of other needs, and they're trying to compete in a division with the Chiefs and Broncos and stuff like that right now. So they're going to need to get.
Don't bother.
Don't
bother.
Good luck.
So, but
new AFC East.
The final point I'll make with that, when you think about the Chargers, Anthony Lynn, they were disappointing last year. The Chargers were supposed to be a playoff contender, and they weren't. And so if the Chargers move up to get Tua, they've got to trade up probably a minimum more than a second. Because if Miami wants Tua and they're willing to give up a second, their second's better than the Chargers. So the Lions or Giants are going to take the Miami 2 over the Chargers 2. So if the Chargers want to beat Miami, they're going to have to give up minimum a second plus another pick. And then you're moving up with their backup right now is Easton Stick, and his name always slips my. Who was the old quarterback from Buffalo? Who was on Cleveland?
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor. So the Chargers right now, 2 quarterbacks are Tyrod Taylor and Easton Stick. So if you move up to draft Tua and you're Anthony Lynn, you're planning on competing this year in the division with Patrick Mahomes, with Easton Stick and Tyrod Taylor. And so those would seem to me like that'd be pretty crazy. Because I think anybody that takes Tua, if you're intending on playing him this year, you're crazy. You just better plan on redshirting him and playing him in 2021. And so I think the Chargers right now are going to be really, really aggressively wanting Justin Herbert after the way that free agency is playing out. Unless they trade for a Cam Newton, I can't imagine the Chargers would feel comfortable maybe going with Jameis Winston as their starter. I just can't imagine that's their. You think people are going to buy tickets to go watch the San Diego Chargers in Los Angeles with their quarterback Jameis Winston in there? I just don't think that markets very well. Cam Newton would be a much bigger ticket seller than Jameis Winston. So I really don't know what the Chargers are doing. That's why I really feel like they were going hard after Brady. That was their plan, and they missed them. And now the quarterbacks that you might realistically feel comfortable with starting for the season are really gone.
And you know what? And again, that's pretty much why I've always said that there's no way any team that drafts Tua has to come in with the understanding that he's not playing 2020. He's sitting down. No matter how healthy he is, he's sitting his butt down and he's waiting. He's getting fully there because there's always that lingering doubt without that extra year of rehab.
But
now,
Dante's right though. That changed a lot today. I mean, even the Panthers, that's the team I've been a little worried about. That with a first-year head coach, they might say we're just going to grab Tua and stash him. But giving Bridgewater $63 million over 3 years, that's not a drafting Tua thing. That is a
he might be the guy.
Bridgewater has pretty much made it like I was surprised Bridgewater was even okay with being Drew Brees' backup because he's pretty much made it clear over and over again that he wants to start. He doesn't want to sit down.
I haven't seen the details come out on the guaranteed money in that, but assuming that he's at least getting 2 years guaranteed, that would be hard to draft Tua after you just paid him that money. If you're trying to compete in your division, and now your division has Tom Brady in it and Drew Brees in it, so I don't think the Panthers are going to move up. Like they might take Tua if he fell to them at 7, but I don't think they're going to trade assets to move up now.
No,
I don't think so either.
Colts are completely out of the running. I was worried about Jim Irsay because he likes flashy quarterback names, but their number 1 pick's gone now. They traded it, and so even though they have Rivers, the Colts don't even have a pick to.
Who did they get again? I forget.
They traded it to the 49ers for Buckner.
DeForest Buckner, that's right, because they have to get after Mahomes up the middle.
So, and other than Herbert, if you're the Chargers, so you can't play Tua, and I don't think you can realistically draft Jordan Love and try to start him this year. That would be catastrophic.
I don't think that's a good idea either.
So if you're the Chargers and if you're going to draft somebody, like Herbert's your best chance right now because you could probably start Justin Herbert on opening day. I think, and he's going to have some growing pains, but he's a senior. He's played a lot of football at Oregon. He's played in a pro-style system at Oregon. He's probably going to be the most, other than maybe Joe Burrow, but he's probably better, even more prepared than Joe Burrow. Not better, but more pro-ready than Joe Burrow. He's only played a year at LSU. I think the Chargers, do not be shocked if the Chargers jump in front of the Dolphins to draft Justin Herbert because they're going to be so nervous that they don't know what the Dolphins are doing.
That's fine by me. They can jump him and draft Justin Herbert all they want.
All right, so you said you covered the draft, though, Dante. So would you be upset if at 5 Tua was gone and Herbert was the guy?
Absolutely not. Honestly, I think I actually wrote about this. I wrote a piece saying that Dolphins fans shouldn't panic if Justin Herbert's the pick at 5. I think Miami's in a spot where they are the best team in the league for any rookie quarterback to go to. This is a team with a very good coaching staff. They have a plan to build around the quarterback. They have the draft picks to do it. They're spending money in the right places. They're getting valuable free agents on defense. I don't have a problem with Justin Herbert at all. I think his film's pretty good. I think he can make every throw in the book. He's fairly accurate. I know he gets.
Okay, so I'll ask you this then. I'll ask you this then. Is the reason everybody's suddenly down on him is just because he's more boring than the other guys?
I think so. I asked a question on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and I got a ton of replies. Was like, why do Dolphins fans hate Justin Herbert? And the top two replies in my mentions were, he's not Tua, and he's not
he's not Joe Burrow,
and he's not a leader. Was the second one that I saw most often, which is ridiculous. People on Twitter can judge if a quarterback's a leader or not. Give me a break. But the top one was he's
social,
not Tua,
social media's definition of leadership is how loud do you scream in public.
Yeah, and that's not Herbert, and that's fine. He's not a perfect quarterback prospect. I'm not going to lie. I think Tua is much better than he is, but he's good. He's still a good quarterback prospect, and I think Miami would be just fine taking him at 5 or trading up for him even if needed.
Yeah, I think if they have him rated close, they're in really good shape. So I think the way free agency played out today, Miami has put themselves in such a good position. These guys, I mean, I know we signed a lot of players, but the way they structure their contracts are interesting. Like
that Byron escape Jones patch is still there. The old Donna Ponte escape patch, it's still there.
Well, honestly, I mean, Byron Jones, obviously, they made him the highest paid cornerback in the NFL, and he's going to be on our team through 2023 with the way they have his contract structured.
Xavier Howard better be sticking around too, because I've seen a lot of people's like, oh, so let's see if we can trade Xavier Howard now. It's like, why would you do that?
I cannot believe that's a thing.
Flores wanted 2 good corners, so he absolutely is pairing those 2. Byron Jones, though, we could probably, if we got rid of Byron Jones in 2023, we would do it without a catastrophic cap hit. It wouldn't be that bad. So it's essentially a 3-year deal they're giving him, and he's getting about 40-some million guaranteed. It's an expensive contract, but this isn't like a ridiculous contract like the Ndamukong and Suh deal we did. So I mean, we're paying.
It's more premier position.
I mean, he was the only really one of the best corners, available. And one thing I'll mention with the impact of Byron Jones, if you're touching on where that's going to affect other teams, is there were multiple teams chasing Byron Jones. And so if you're a Dolphins fan right now, you're seeing the impact Brian Flores has, because all these signings, these are not unbelievable contracts that we're talking about here. These are, they're market contracts for the players, but these people are coming here because they want to play for Brian Flores. And, kind of my thought was, on the first day anyway, a loser for agency was the Jets. And because the Jets have like $60 million in cap space, but you're seeing the after effect of like Adam Gase is not, they've had players complaining about the way they were treated for the Jets, and Adam Gase does not treat players that well.
Adam Gase is a terrible human being.
You saw that play out on the start of free agency. So these guys are coming to Miami because look at what the things that Brian Flores does. Like you look at Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah went into Brian Flores' office, said, "I don't want to be here." Brian Flores says, "All right, we'll work on getting you traded."
But I so wish he was here now, though. Could you imagine Minkah in that secondary?
If you're talking to Minkah Fitzpatrick and you're saying, "What do you think of Brian Flores?" He's going to be like, "He treated me fair." And you look at Rashad Jones. They cut Rashad Jones a few days ago. They could have just sit on him and cut him in June or something like that, or waited, but they wanted to give him every chance to try to catch on with another team. So they cut him. You look at Patrick Graham, our defensive coordinator. He just went to be a defensive coordinator for the Giants. Brian Flores could easily said, "I'm going to block it. I'm not going to allow you to leave." But Brian Flores said, "Look, if that's where you want to go coach where you want to go. You do what you got to do." And so those are starting to add up. That the perception of Brian Flores is that he's very demanding, but he's very fair with everybody. Whether you're a coach or a player, he holds a really high accountability. If you aren't meeting those accountabilities, he gets you out of the
You don't want to try to meet that accountability.
Either or, but it doesn't matter if you're a coach or a player. If you aren't meeting expectations, you're gone. That's Brian Flores, but he treats everybody fairly. And you are seeing that with all these signings because these players know with Brian Flores, they're going to get treated fairly. And I think he's also a pretty damn good coach. So I think they're coming here because they know he might put them in even better positions to succeed. But on those contracts I was talking about, when you look at, so you look at Kyle Van Noy, he signed a $51 million contract. What's that? Is it? No, he signed a 4-year, $51 million contract, which you look at that number, that seems like a lot. He's getting a $12 million signing bonus. So that's a guaranteed money up front. And then he only has $3 million guaranteed this year, and that's it. That's the only guarantees on that contract.
Wow,
So
that's good.
If you cut Kyle Van Noy in a year or two, you don't really have much of a cap hit. He doesn't have a high guarantee on that contract. And so that's a contract, even though the per year is high, that's a player that wants to come here to play with Flores because he's getting paid what he wants, but that's not a unbelievable contract. That's an easy out in a year or two. Jordan Howard came for 2 years, $10 million. That's a great, I mean, that is so much better than paying Melvin Gordon like a big 5-year contract.
I was so worried about that. I'm so glad they didn't pay Melvin Gordon.
Let's be fair, though. Jordan Howard kind of has to. He's on a semi-prove it thing here because after that injury, he's kind of been like,
I don't think it's guaranteed at all. I think he makes $5 million this year and $5 million next year. So I think they'll pay him $5 million this year, and he can make $5 million next year. But to me, it's just clear they're going to draft him back and pair him with Howard.
Oh yeah, for sure. Though
yeah,
I think that was never in question.
That's a great move. He's 25. When he's healthy, he's performed well. He's probably just as talented as Melvin Gordon, to be honest. But I mean, $5 million a year for a good running back, that's probably below
great
that
value. That's great value.
Shaq Lawson and Eric Flowers they did almost identical contracts. They both got 3-year, $30 million contracts. Shaq Lawson's has $21 million guaranteed, and Eric Flowers has like $19.9 guaranteed. That's the same deal. And so both these players are basically here this coming season for $10 million and the next season for $10 million. And even though they have 3-year 30s, this is really a 2-year $20 million contract for both of them because you can release both of those guys in 3 years without any cap hit. And so you're talking about a 25-year-old edge pass rusher that's pretty solid. Shaq Lawson's not a slouch. And Eric Flowers, I know he struggled as a guard with the Giants, but he
as a
played
tackle.
well.
Yeah.
Or he struggled at tackle for the Giants. He played well at guard for a bad Redskins team. You got to keep that in mind. That was a bad team he was playing on. 3 years, $30 million. So paying $10 million for a starting guard, that's not crazy money. That's realistic.
The only thing I would worry about with Flowers is like regression to the mean. You know, like is he going to go back to the way he was with
my
the
worry.
Giants?
Is that I'm skeptical of Eric Flowers.
Yeah, is he was it just a perfect situation in Washington? You know, where he came in and it clicked for him, and now he's back to another city, and it's not going to go well. I don't know.
I think that's fair.
Of all the signings, I think that's the one that I'm like the most skeptical of is Eric Flowers, just because his time with the Giants was so bad.
Well, I think the situation for the Dolphins is you're coming in with the offseason. All you've got is Jesse Davis, who, my opinion is he's just like a service or rotational lineman, kind of your sixth lineman. I don't agree with that. And so Miami has no line right now. And so I think the players that they may have been interested in, like I think they were very interested in Thuney from the Patriots, but they tagged him. And so the availability just wasn't there. And so I think they just took a 25-year-old guy that played well last year. They didn't give him some crazy monster contract. And that was just probably the best that they could get on the current market in free agency. So I think it's pretty safe to say, you don't know what the Dolphins are going to do for quarterback, but this draft coming up, you're going to see them take, I would say, at least 2 or 3 offensive linemen pretty high in this draft. I
don't doubt that for a second. I don't doubt that for a second.
They have to. They have to.
Right now, what it is I'm almost positive that they're going to be looking at somebody. Okay, so this is how I'm seeing this. This is my little off-the-cuff, like, off-season draft plan here. Tua at 5, because I still think he's going to be there. And I'm going to bring something up a little later that I want to discuss with you guys, a theory. Then at 18, that's when I think we're going to be looking at a tackle, whether it's Mekhi Becton, if he's still there. I don't know if he will be. I'm going to say no. Josh Jacobs, who he's a project, but he's got all the potential in the world. And I feel like that's where the Dolphins are looking at right now is a lot of potential guys. Eric Flowers has potential to be a great guard. Emmanuel Ogbah has great potential to be an awesome pass rusher. Shaq Lawson has potential. He's good. They're good, but they're not like superstars, you know what I mean? But
I'd say Lawson, he can both Lawson and Van Noy are fairly effective pass rushers. I mean, they're not take the game over pass rushers. But Agaba he's probably going to be an edge-setting D end in a 3-4. That's what they're getting with him. He's not going to be he's going to be rotational. I don't see him coming in and taking a ton of snaps and picking up 15 sacks or anything like that. But
right. So, but that means that the Dolphins basically have to put their focus on left tackle with one of their first round picks, which is again
without a doubt.
This is why though I keep saying they can't trade up unless they're trading up from 18 or from 26 to something else, because anything that you have to trade up from 5, you're going to have to give up one of those first rounders. And right now the Dolphins can't afford to give that up.
I mean, it just depends. This is going to, for Brian Flores, you're depending on your scouting department. I mean, I would say after the combine, Wirtz is probably one of my Iowa boys. He's probably the number 1 tackle right now. And I suspect the Giants are going to go after him if they don't take Isaiah Simmons. It's going to be one of those two.
That's another temptation.
Well, I mean, I would have said that, yes, but I mean, I don't know. At Miami right now, they've got, is it Van Ginkel, the guy they got from Wisconsin last year?
Yeah, not even in the same ballpark, though, Chad. Come on.
Yeah.
No, but I'm pointing out who they have on their roster. You've got Van Noy now. You've got James Baker. You've got
Jerome Baker.
Sorry, Jerome Baker. I always screw his name up. Who's our middle linebacker?
Raekwon McMillan.
You got Raekwon McMillan.
He's the run stuffer.
They tendered Beagle. And so that's a lot of linebackers that are pretty good.
Don't forget Sam McGuavin.
Right, which...
I know. Sam McGuavin.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be on the fringe this year. He's a hard-working guy. I like him, but he just doesn't have that talent level I think that you probably need. But just don't let him hear that. Let him find me in a dark alley. But I mean, obviously, Isaiah Simmons is a very special talent. But with picking up Van Noy now, I would be surprised if the Dolphins are going to. I mean, to me, that kind of telegraphs they're looking at a quarterback or an offense. Right now, if Miami at 5, they're either taking quarterback or offensive line, in my opinion. The other thing that really stood out to me is we didn't cut Albert Wilson, right?
Nope. I don't think they're going to.
Well, they could. I mean, because Albert Wilson's contract, you can cut him now with almost no cap hit and immediately get $10
right,
million.
And that's why I figured he would be the first one to go before even Rashad Jones, because that's like easy money.
You look at this team, and I don't know if they don't like the class or they're really happy, but everything that they've done since they've got here is been keeping the receivers they have. They gave Devontae Parker a new contract. They gave Jakeem Grant a new contract. Hearns, they gave him a contract too, I think.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did.
They extended him early. They extended him late last season.
They didn't release Albert Wilson, and Preston Williams will be coming back. And so I don't think Miami's going to really address wide receiver hardly at all in the draft. I think they're staying pat.
I don't think they need to. Yeah.
Albert Wilson
I don't
started
disagree,
to come back
but,
at the late season. He was starting to become that guy again, but we didn't get to see enough of it.
But
I mean, if Wilson comes back healthy, I think he's worth the contract that he's on. Personally, if he's the guy that we saw 2 years ago, sign me up.
Based on what the Dolphins have done, I think they agree with you, Dante. So he'll probably be one of the slot guys. Him and Grant will probably be playing some in the slot, I would guess. So, but my point being is we weren't very active on offensive line. We clearly didn't pick up a tackle, at least thus far, in free agency. So I have to think that either Miami's playing coy and they don't even care about getting a quarterback and they're just going to go with Fitz and Rosen. If they're doing that, I'll bet you they go with somebody like Wirtz or Becton at 5 because they need help on the line. But I don't discount them moving up too. I mean, Miami's got a lot of picks, and so if you really like Becton, trade one of your seconds and trade that 18 and jump up into like 10 or 11 and take him. That
I will do. I would
do that as well.
I'm just not giving up a first rounder.
Right.
That's been my one sticking point this whole time. I don't care if the Dolphins trade up. They can't draft 14 people, but do not give up a third round pick. Those are the reason. There's a reason those guys are supposed to take pictures with the commissioner.
Well,
I
think one of the first round picks is going to be a tackle. It almost has to be one of the first rounds.
Virtually.
I don't know if it's going to be 118 or 518 or 26. But one of them.
A nice silver lining for the Dolphins is a really good tackle class. You know, there's the top 4 guys that everyone talks about, but the depth of the class is actually pretty good. There's a couple of guys that they could get later in the first round. that I think would be really good picks for them. So I would love them to move up, right? If you can get it back in a Wirfs, a Wills, that'd be fantastic. No complaints from me. But, if you have to stay at 26, I think Josh Jones from Houston.
Oh, is that what it is? It's not Josh Jacobs? Is
it Andrew Thomas from Georgia?
Yes.
He's also a guy you get around 26. It might be realistic.
I think probably 18. I would probably be the closer range for him, at least in my opinion. But that'd be a great pick. He's a good player. He really is. So this is a good year to need a tackle.
If push comes to shove, they can always go and get Prince Tega Wanago. Is another project guy.
This is not that. There is probably two or three, maybe even 4 higher end tackles than usual in the draft. This is a deep draft for
it's a really good year for tackle. It's a good year to need a tackle.
It's a good year for a lot of stuff.
Lucky. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Well, not pass rusher. There's only like 3 guys, but
one other thing, I think it's almost a certainty in this draft now with that effect of the Dolphins winning out to get Byron Jones, because I'm pretty confident the Giants were chasing Byron Jones as well. They immediately went and signed James Bradbury, who I think probably was the number 2 corner in the free agency class. He was on the Panthers. He's a pretty solid corner. So with the Giants doing that, Miami obviously taking Byron Jones, the corner from Ohio State, Okudah, neither one of those teams are probably taking him now. And I think the Giants were actually still trying to trade Slay, their cornerback. They have got to get a corner. And he is by far and away the best in the class. So I think the Lions are almost locked into taking him at 3 right now.
Do you think? Okay, so here's this thing. This is actually going to fall into what I was going to discuss earlier, and you brought up a very interesting point. Okay, so this is a theory put together by Alfredo Ortega. I hope I said his name right. He was on 305 Live with 5 Reasons Sports Network with me a couple of nights ago, and he basically threw this out there that the Lions are not bluffing if they call up the Dolphins and say, we are going to draft Tua. Do you want to give us something to take him? And basically, if the Dolphins try to call their bluff, then the Lions will basically draft Tua and hold him hostage for someone else. So do you think that is something we need to be concerned about? Because it's not the first time that something like that has happened. Like a team just drafts somebody to say, we have your guy. What are you going to give us for him?
Well, I would say that would be the equivalent of holding somebody hostage but not actually having a real gun, because Matt Patricia he's 9-22-1 right now. He is gone if he does not win this year. He can't afford to have like a 5 or 6 win season, and Tua does nothing to help him. So I mean, if he calls somebody and says
the Dolphins
we're going to
picks do.
Well, he wants the Dolphins picks,
yeah,
but. They just gave Chase Daniels a 3-year contract to come in and be the backup because that's their concern with Stafford. Is he going to be healthy? So they've brought in a veteran backup. So now, if you draft Tua, now you can't put him on the practice squad. He'll get claimed immediately. So if you draft Tua, you got to carry 3 quarterbacks now, one which won't play, and he's going to potentially then be in the way of other players you can have on your roster to help you win.
But they can afford that now. There's 55 players on the roster now as part of the new CBA.
I don't think Matt Patricia can afford it. Maybe some other teams. I just don't think that's realistic whatsoever that the Lions are going to take Tua. I mean, they can bluff it all they want. I do think if you really want Tua, you go to 3 and get him. You just don't give up a ton. I really think Miami's original 2nd round pick will get it done. And so, like I said, if Tua is what Miami wants, if they are comfortable with the injury and they feel like he's the guy, I just give the 2 up and I don't think twice about it. If you're going to give up more than the 2, I think you got to call their bluff. And you got to look at it, and Dante has a great point. Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback prospect. I don't know if you guys saw him throw that pass flat-footed that was like 60 yards. He probably has the strongest arm in the draft, him or Jordan Love. And so if I take Herbert at 5, I just sit there and say, we'll take Herbert at 5 and he'll be our potential quarterback too. We'll just double up with Rosen and see who works out. But yeah. I don't think anybody in front of the Dolphins are taking Tua. It'd have to be somebody that works a trade up to come and get him.
Okay, so now here's another question, because you brought up the corner stuff. How desperate do you think the Giants are? Do you think they could trade up to get the Lions pick and get Jeffrey Okudah? Because if that's the theory that they want him.
The Giants, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I think because today they just signed James Bradbury,
Right, but they were trying to get rid of Slay, though.
No, the Lions are. The Lions are trying to get rid of Slay.
Oh, the Lions. Okay, I misunderstood what you meant.
And he's a good corner. He's getting a little older, but I can tell you in any history of NFL, once you put out there you're trying to shop a player, you better get him shot because he's not very cooperative if you don't get him traded. And so I think the Lions, would have a hard time getting along with Slay at this point after they've clearly been shopping him for the last month.
Yeah, and the longer that he's on the block, the more they're going to lose their leverage anyway. So, the better is to just do it now. If you're going to do it now.
And, again, the Lions, they got to win right now. With the Packers, and you have Aaron Rodgers in your division, and the Vikings are pretty good right now. The Lions have got to have a good corner if they're going to have any chance to save Matt Patricia's job. So I just think they're in position to take him. Like the Redskins aren't going to take him at 2 with Chase there. So I think Lions they're just going to have to take him right there. And if they can con the Dolphins into trading them some picks and drop to 5. I don't think the Giants are going to take. I really think the Giants are going to take an offensive lineman. So I think the Lions could probably drop to 5 and comfortably still get him. But if they don't fall past much further back, that's going to get a little dicey because Miami might trade the pick to somebody that wants him. So you don't want to fall too far down if you're the Lions because there's nobody that comparable in the draft that would be the same caliber of player.
Okay, so I just misunderstood what you meant. I thought you meant the Giants needed a corner. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and go into this because this is where we're going to close it on. Obviously, the free agency doesn't officially open until tomorrow, so there's I know it's dumb, but there's still a lot of money to be spent, and there's still a lot of time before the draft actually shows up. So, what's next, gentlemen?
Oh, who they're going to chase? You think?
What about the center from New England, right? Ted Karras. I don't think he's signed with anyone yet.
No,
not yet.
Following Twitter, and obviously you got to take that with the sources, but it's being reported they're talking to him by some of the more credible sources that the Dolphins are talking with him. I don't know if they're trying to get terms or what.
I think that would be a home run signing. He probably doesn't cost too much. He's definitely better than whoever Daniel Kilgore's backup is since we cut him. So I think that
Daniel Kilgore's backup.
that alone tells you enough right there.
Yeah, exactly. I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. I'm drawing a blank.
Well, I'm just thinking Kilgore is probably like bottom third of the league in centers, and you're talking about his backup. So
okay, so here's the problem I have with the Karras thing, though. I said that he was an upgrade over Kilgore. Some folks showed me like some numbers that say, not really. So I can't help but wonder if Karras' success had more to do with the team he was on and the whole Dante Scarnecchia voodoo thing.
It's hard to say. The Dolphins need a center. This is
put Michael
maybe
Vita.
Less likely, but Dieter, I think they could look at switching in there because he didn't really have that impressive of a year as a rookie at guard.
That's an understatement.
He had a bad year. I'll say it. He did not play well as a rookie. I was very disappointed.
Right, but he played bad enough that you wonder, is he going to develop into a decent guard or not? So he's. I don't know. I don't like to spend too much time on a guy that's not getting there. And so I don't think anybody would say they saw a lot of potential in him so far. And so he may be better suited.
Because Wisconsin is supposed to be like the breeding ground for linemen. I don't know what happened.
Well, maybe they had him on a really good program and he's going to come in better shape and they're going to get better coaching now with some of the new staff. But that might be the best option for him right now is to get him over right away at the start of camp and start training him to be a center. But to me, that's kind of rolling the dice if you're the Dolphins to think, because you're going to have no idea how well he's going to perform at that position in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't think Karras is going to come for a lot of money either. I think it's a no-brainer for the Dolphins, especially if you sign him at market value. You really got nothing to lose.
Oh, and you take him away from the Patriots, which is an added bonus.
Yeah, hey, even better.
Brady's gone already. What's the point? Who cares? We're done sabotaging them. Nothing we do at this point can do anything like that.
I would kick them when they're down, Lewis. Kick them when they're down. Don't let them get back up.
Well, we knocked them down when we beat them in Foxborough. they just got like punched in the gut with Brady leaving, and now we're just gonna like step on their throats.
Unless something crazy happens with the Traders,
they're already dead.
The Patriots they're not going to be. They're going to still have a good defense. They're still going to have Belichick, but they're essentially going to be playing a rookie quarterback as of right now, and so rookie quarterbacks make mistakes. They make mistakes, so they're not going to be a powerhouse. I don't know who they're going to get at this point. I thought maybe they go after Rivers. I guess I keep hearing the report that people think that Bill Belichick likes Andy Dalton, but
Rivers has to go somewhere. Did he get? Oh no, he went to the Colts.
Rivers went to the Colts. So, like I said, the good quarterbacks are now gone. If you're one quarterback you feel comfortable being your starter for the year, they've all kind of fallen into place. Tannehill's going to be the Titans quarterback for a while, obviously. Brady's going to be Tampa's quarterback. Rivers is going to be the Colts. Bridgewater is going to be the Panthers. And so, really, it's down to like Cam Newton,
and Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. But two of those guys are trades.
I don't know if I'd go into a year with Winston.
I was going to ask, what do you guys think about Jameis in New England?
I'm surprised that Mariota got okay, this is the thing though. This is when you really know whether it was Belichick or if it was Brady, because again, Matt Castle did all that, and now if Winston shows up and starts blowing everything up, then it's like, okay, yeah, Brady has nothing to do with it.
And you talk about a turner of types of quarterback going from Tom Brady to Jameis Winston. Winston's got talent, don't get me wrong, but didn't he throw like 30 picks this last year?
Yes,
he
but
did
throw
exactly.
I don't know how long Bill Belichick would stand 30 picks. There'd be some storming, but if I was advising Jameis Winston, where I'd tell him to go would be the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I think it was pretty clear that Mason Rudolph isn't the guy. Like he's not going to be the next guy to take over for the Steelers.
Duck Hodges, and that's not even his name.
Though.
Well,
he uprooted Rudolph. So
right, but so honestly, like if you're the Steelers, and Big Ben, he's become an injury issue for them. He's a talented quarterback when he's healthy, but
he's old. It happens.
He's breaking down, and so Jameis Winston might be a good fit to come in and back up Roethlisberger.
I like that. I think that would be a good fit.
It's kind of scary how we're watching all these quarterbacks that we've seen since the dawn of time just suddenly start to fall off. Brady's going to be gone soon. I don't care what they sign into.
Oh, Brady probably
Rodgers.
I think in terms of Brady, he picked the best spot because I know the Chargers wanted him, but I just can't see Brady competing in the West against that Chiefs team right now, and he knows that. That would be a hard division to win for Tom Brady. But you go to the NFC South, you get to have the hype, I guess, if you will, for the Brady Breeze game. Like it's like the PGA Senior Tour. You get to watch the two seniors that they'll play the regular go against each other. And so the Brady's Breeze, that'll be
seniors.
Fun.
That's actually very fitting considering who they are.
Well, you got the 40-plus quarterbacks that'll be going against each other. So
future Hall of Famers. Let's be respectful, but still, they're 40-plus.
That'll be easy to hype if you're the station that's showing the game. But the Panthers they're kind of in a rebuild of sorts, I think, right now. The Falcons, they are so all over the place. You never really know.
Matt Ryan's got to go.
They're not going to move on from Matt Ryan this year, and so it's a winnable division for Tom Brady because let's be real that the Bucs have some very good skill players around Brady, and yes, I think Aaron is a pretty good coach, so he's picking a division that's winnable. That's what he's doing.
Okay. Well, I think that'll about cover it. We've talked about the players, and there's more to come. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure that the Dolphins are nowhere near finished yet. There's a bunch of role players that I figure they're going to sign. There's a bunch of this. I'm still hoping they go and get some kind of offensive lineman, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went ahead and did make some kind of a trade, like maybe package a few mid-round picks and maybe grab Trent Williams for a rental year, which if the plan is to draft a project at left tackle, I wouldn't be too upset about it.
He's going to want a massive deal, though. Like, he's going to want big money.
Well, we have the money. That's the thing. We have the money to do it. Like, listen, here's 3 years. Here's a lot of money. Go do your thing.
Man, they've got the pick.
Is he, though? That's another question. Like, how? Like,
that's why he's a rental.
was kind of weird at Washington, and the way that they handled it, he scares me. I would stay away there.
That's why he's a rental.
100% agree with Dante. I would not touch Trent unless he's willing to, if he signs like a 1-year, $10 million deal, yeah, go for it. But
Yeah,
if he's
sure.
wanting like a 3 or 4 year deal with big guarantees, and which he probably does, I go to the draft. If you're going to do the Trent Williams move, wait and see in case you miss on the guys in the draft, because there's several good young tackles. That's a way better route for this team to go.
I only said it as I only said Trent Williams because if again it's a project. If you can't get like your hands on Mekhi Becton or one of those top guys, then the ones that you get after that is Josh Jones, Prince Tega Wanogho, which again those are projects. They're not guys you want starting at left tackle to start the year, and that's why you have a Trent Williams. Because the idea is after all these moves the Dolphins have made, you can't really sell the fan base on rebuilding, wait for 2021. These moves are not wait for 2021 moves.
Oh, I don't think this team's going to try to win. I think they were trying to win last year, but I was pointing out their ages here because I think these are players. Let's say your goal is to try to be a playoff contender this year, which I think is maybe realistic. I don't think you would go in this year and say, "Oh, Miami's a clear Super Bowl contender. They're a top 4 team." They're not, but they're this is a team that won 5 games last year, and
with trash. Yeah, exactly.
These added players here are pretty good, and so, but again, they're aged so that if you're trying to be really good in 2 or 3 years, I think the majority of these players they signed will be contributing on that team, and so that's what the story is here. Is they're getting players that'll help now, but will be here. They're not 1-year rentals that we've been seeing in the past.
All right, so we'll go ahead and call it here. Thank you all so much for joining us. Dante, welcome to the team. We'll hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you for having me. Had a great time, guys.
All right. And so we'll see you all next time for the next episode of Dolphins Brawl. Hopefully we'll have some more information on what the Dolphins plan is and kind of an idea of what we should be doing. All right.
Thanks.
So y'all have a great night.